these were the last words I ever got to say. I'd want them to matter. We live in a world that rewards noise, speed, and self importance. But history doesn't move because of those things. History moves because sometimes a human being refuses to look away. Our guest today walked into places where systems failed, politics collapsed, and children were left to die, and she chose to stay human anyway. Not for recognition, not for legacy, but because someone had to stand in the middle of suffering and say, this matters. Today's conversation is not about heroism, it's about conscience. It's about what it costs to care and why that cost is still worth paying. This is Common X, and today we are honored to sit with Dame Claire Bertschinger. Welcome to the show, Dame.
Hello, thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for
We're,
coming on.
we're very humbled. Now, Dame Claire, when you arrived in Ethiopia, you were in your early 30s. This was before the world attached meaning to what you were doing. Before history ever entered the room, who was that woman trying to be?
Who was I trying to be? I was just being myself. I was a nurse. I worked for the International Committee of the Red Cross, and it was part of my role to go and help humanity wherever necessary, in particular in war zones or conflict areas, because I worked for the International Committee of the Red Cross. Now, that's the ICRC. They are the guardian of the Geneva Conventions and international humanitarian law. So they go into conflict zones, they improve humanity wherever possible, and then come out again. And in particular, they don't speak about it afterwards. They work as a silent witness. It's a different branch of the national or the international Red Cross.
Now, you've spoken openly about being dyslexic, about not finding your way with reading and writing until later than most people.
Mm.
Before you had the words, what did you learn to notice about people or situations that others might have missed?
Um, Before I had the word, that's a very interesting question. My goodness, I didn't speak much because whatever I said wasn't, I suppose, wasn't clear. So I didn't have an opinion. Well, I did, but I kept it inside myself because whatever I said was completely misunderstood. Um, so ask me the question again if that's not clear enough.
No, I think that was clear. I was just saying before you had the words, what did you learn to notice about people or situations while you were kind of keeping that in your head?
I learnt a lot. You learn a lot by just observing. And in fact, when I was in the field, meaning in war zones, I think it helped me a lot to understand people just by watching them rather than understanding the words. You watch them and you feel more, you have a lot more understanding. And I think, yeah, I can remember some grandchildren, not grandchildren, sorry, some of my nieces used to say, "How come, Claire, you see everything I do? You as if you've got eyes in the back of your head." And I don't know why I did. I just observe more, see more.
When someone sees the world that way, what happens when that way of seeing is suddenly tested under extreme conditions?
Well, you don't know you're any different. So, yeah, I don't know I'm any different. I'm just carrying on with life. It's only now, after 50 years, I can look back and understand a bit more of what I was like in when I was younger, much younger.
Can you remember the first time you realized that this wasn't something you could simply do well, that it was bigger than any training?
Well, I I became a Buddhist when I was 40, and up until that time, I just thought I was, inverted commas, stupid. I didn't have an opinion. but through my Buddhist practice, it's a particular, it's called the Zoka Gakkai. It's a particular lay Buddhist organization. It's very big in America, SGI. And they were very understanding. There was nobody said anything wrong. And I found I had a voice, just a little voice, and I could give an opinion, and nobody said, "Oh, that's stupid," or "What are you talking about?" And slowly, so that's when I developed, I suppose, when I was 40. I also, computers came out in the 80s, but in the 90s, I started using computers, and I suddenly realised what was spell check. It's not just spell check. Dyslexia is much bigger than that. I call it word blindness. It's words not being able to say the words, understand the words, write the words. It's a massive. I don't like that word dyslexia because people just think you put letters back to front or you can't spell, but it's a lot more than that. It's really word blindness, and also I have number blindness. And then when in the 90s, I decided to do a master's degree in medical anthropology. And the only reason I could do that was because computers arrived, and I could suddenly be a bit easier to write, understand, read.
That's amazing, and I feel that because I also too have dyslexia, so I understand for sure. When you arrived in Ethiopia and began working in the feeding centers, what did an ordinary day actually look like before the cameras and before the world knew?
Oh, was there ever an ordinary day? I lived in something called the Castle Hotel. Now, it had no running water, it had no electricity, buckets of water were brought up from the well, and I had it in this bathroom where I used to pour it down the lavatory because that didn't flush, and I used to cup and throw it over me to wash from a bucket, and that might have to last 2 days, the bucket, I mean, of water. So I used to get up as the sun rose, and used to hear the horns. They used to blow horns when somebody died. You could hear it. The Castle Hotel was on a little mound, and you could look over the town, and I could hear the horns playing. And when somebody died, the procession with the horns, they played the horns. A horn, I think it was with a conch shell or with a cow horn that they blowed. And get up. The food we had was cooked on an open wood fire. We didn't really have much food. Sometimes I had a boiled egg. Otherwise it's some sort of local injera or bread. And then I used to go to the feeding centre. It was just outside of town. There was no roads. It was just dirt track. There was no proper buildings except maybe the hotel we were in. They were all just shacks. Made out of corrugated iron and cardboard, some sort of type of local handmade bricks maybe. And then you went to this area which was a bit like a corral, an area which was covered in corrugated iron for the shade. And it wasn't very big. It was about gosh, I'm not very good at size. Anyway, it wasn't very big. And it'd be surrounded by lots of people crying and shouting and murmuring and wanting to come into the feeding centre. At 6 o'clock, the local people who we employed had got the fires going, and we cooked on open wood fires in great big oil drums, and we boiled water. And then another oil drum we mixed. In those days it was something called a high energy milk drink, which was sugar, skim milk and oil mixed together. And that all had to be boiled up because the water wasn't necessarily clean. And then the children came in. They were allowed one carer with them. It might be another brother or sister, or it might be a mother or father. At the beginning, we had 500 children, and they each got a mug of high energy milk drink 3 times a day. Later on, we managed to do it 5 times a day, and we adjusted what we gave them.
Now there was several thousand outside of the feeding center
Yeah,
too, wasn't there?
right. So I can remember one day I had discharged some of the children because their weight for height was sufficient for them to go out and have normal food. Sorry, this is a bit disjointed, but remember the children we had, it was a supplementary feeding centre. So it was the ones who were below their weight for height. And they were all malnourished outside. And I can remember one day there was, I could choose 60 or 70 new children. And outside, they had 10 rows of children, and in each row there was 100 children. No, start again. I can't remember. Yeah, it was 10 rows of children, and each row I was counting 100 children, and I only had 60 or 70 places that day. And I thought, how am I going to choose? So I spoke to the local Red Cross who were helping us, and I said, "But which ones should we bring in? Go and choose." And they said, "We can't choose. That's our sisters, our brothers. We can't choose. You're going to have to go out there and choose, Claire." I said, "How am
Oh
I going to do
wow.
that?" And so we discussed it among ourselves, and it was decided that I would go up and down the lines and look at everyone, but you wouldn't take the ones that were most serious. I mean, as I say, they were all malnourished. They had their skin and bones, just the skin dripping off the bones, no fat, no muscles left at all. And the worst ones we knew would die within a few days. So we didn't pick the worst ones, because when you start feeding somebody who's very malnourished, their body can't take it. So we had to take the ones that had sort of a spark of life in their eyes, and that's what I did. But you know, it was horrendous. It was awful. Yeah, it was awful for everyone.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Like that burden of bearing witness to that. So, what does that trauma do to humanitarian workers?
At the time, you are so busy, really, really busy. You've got children around you screaming and shouting, some vomiting with diarrhea, wanting feed, not wanting to feed. They've got boils, they've got chest infections, they're so ill that you're just rushed off your feet. You don't have time to think. And the evening, it was sun up to sun. You had to go back before it got dark because it was a curfew. I was just too exhausted. We had no electricity in the hotel, so it was just candles for light. So it was just exhausting. I mean, I didn't even have time to wash properly. Maybe once a week I managed to not even wash my hair or my body, but it wasn't a wash, it's more a flannel wash. So what it does to you, it's only later. And I'll tell you, after a year, I came back to Britain for a few weeks before I went to my next posting. And I can remember everyone saying what a fantastic job I had done. "Oh, wonderful, Claire, you've been in Ethiopia saving all those children from hunger." And I'm telling them, no, I didn't. It was horrendous. I wasn't saving them. There's all these children who died, and I felt responsible for their death. And they were just, my friends and family were just saying, "No, you're wonderful, wonderful work you've been doing, Claire." And I thought, well, they're not listening to me. And I thought, well, if you're not going to listen to me, I'm not going to talk to you. So I didn't speak about it. I didn't speak about my experience for over 20 years. I just kept quiet, and not even to my family or close friends. And it was only 20 years later when the BBC contacted me and wanted me to go back for the anniversary. And I was horrified because I thought, no, I don't want to go back. I thought I'd be vilified. It was my fault that those children died. And then one of my Buddhist friends said to me, "Claire, you need to go back and face what happened." And somehow create value out of this awful, awful situation that you witnessed and lived through. And so in the end, I did go back. It was very traumatic going back, but out of that, I decided to write my experience. And that I did in a book. The book's called Moving Mountains. And it was based on my letters and diaries that I'd sent to my family when I was out there. And my father kept them in chronological order in an old shed in the garden, actually the bee shed, because he kept bees. The bees didn't get kept in there, it was his suit and all the equipment. And as far as I was concerned, he could have burnt the lot, because I didn't want to look at them, I didn't want to remember anything, forget it. But when I decided to write my book, out came these old shoe boxes with all the letters and the diaries, and there was my memories, which I didn't have up there, or I did, but I didn't, they weren't open. And that's how I wrote the book, with all those memories.
That's
That's pretty
incredible.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, we encourage our audience and uh, to go check out that book. It's from what I see, it's available everywhere. It's very powerful. Uh, so there came a point where there simply wasn't enough. How did you reconcile being a nurse trained to save lives while knowing you could not save everyone?
Again, I have to say to you, we were just so busy that I was concentrating on the 500 I had to save. And there was one time when we did have, you have to remember I was in a conflict zone, so people couldn't come and go. There wasn't any, there's no mobile phones, there's no internet, there's no any phones really. Letters took weeks to get to us. So it's very unusual that we even got visitors into the area, because there was one, it was a DC-3, a Dakota plane that came once a week. And then we could, and it was a military one, it wasn't, so we could put letters on that, or messages. And I can remember one time I did have a visitor from Addis Ababa who came to visit, and I went to collect him in the van. We had to go past several checkpoints on the way, military checkpoints, and I collected him. And as we were driving back into town, there was this people everywhere, just in tatters and rags, and lying on the ground. And there was one particular man who was half in the road, half not there, just with a cloth over him, an old man, and he was just lying there, and he looked pretty moribund. And this delegate said to me, "Well, aren't you going to stop and help? Well, you must help. Well, stop. You must look after him." And I looked at this guy, my delegate, the Swiss guy. I said, what do you want me to do?" "Well, help, take him to the hospital or something." And I suddenly realised, you don't understand what's going on here. And it was so that day I showed him around the situation, what it was, that there was not just one person on the ground, there were thousands. It was a horrendous situation. And it was only when the film crew managed to get on an aeroplane to come up. You have to remember that Ethiopia at the time was a communist regime, and Mengistu Haile Mariam, the president, was a dictator, and he wasn't allowing any foreigners into the country. But it was the 10th anniversary of him being in power, and he wanted to celebrate it. So he did invite foreign dignitaries and reporters into Addis Ababa. And just by chance, or not as the case may be, the BBC managed to get on a plane and came up to see what was happening, because they'd heard about the rumours. And that's when the world saw the actual reality of what was happening in the area.
Well, for a long time, all of this was happening, like you said, right? Without the world seeing it. And then the BBC footage aired, and suddenly the world was watching. Did that attention feel like relief, or did it complicate things further in the beginning?
I didn't understand what I didn't really understand what the power of journalism, the power of a photograph, the power of news. I do remember the first plane that arrived, and I was asked to go out to meet them. A big Hercules C-130 it was at the time. And again, I had to go out very early in the morning, past all these military checkpoints, and arrive at what was the landing strip. It wasn't an airport. It was just earth. And there was one building which obviously had been once in the past some sort of traffic control, I suppose. And it was just a flat roof. It had no windows and it had some stairs up the outside, just an empty, broken down building. And I climbed up the stairs and stood on the roof and looked around, and there's a few herders herding their goats and cattle, just just local farmers with a cloth over them and with a stick. And it was just a beautiful morning and the sun was rising. And then I saw in the very distance, I can remember seeing this black spot sort of jump over the mountain and come towards me and get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. This massive plane landed in a hail of stones and dust, and the doors opened and it was full of food. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. We're saved if this can continue. And that's the first thing. And from that moment, from one plane a week, from one plane a week, we got several each day. And that was fantastic. Yeah, yeah.
So what did it feel like when the cameras left, but the suffering didn't? I can
They
imagine that
said
didn't take. What did it feel like when the cameras left, but the suffering didn't?
the cameras didn't leave. There
It
was
was just
there was people coming all the time, and the thing is, there was planes coming. Remember, the planes were arriving, several each day after that, full of food. And whether it was the Americans or the Germans or the Russians or the British or all these different planes, it was amazing actually how they coordinated, and everyone got together and helped the famine relief, helped the situation.
Now,
it's amazing.
when the Band-Aid song was released, "Do They Know It's Christmas?" It brought enormous attention and resources. Did that leave you feeling uneasy with how suffering was kind of being simplified at the time?
Right, so at the time I had a shortwave radio with batteries, and you could a shortwave radio comes and goes and you can't hear really clearly what it is. And I can remember going back to my room and hearing this song, "Feed the World, Do They Know It's Christmas," by somebody called Band-Aid. And they're saying all the money was going to go to Ethiopia. And I thought, what do you mean it's all going to Ethiopia? And I'm looking around, it's crazy, they're making money for themselves, are they? And then, and I thought they need more than the bloody Band-Aid here. And no, they don't know it's Christmas because they have a completely
Right.
different calendar. It's not Christmas.
Hmm.
And then the planes started to arrive. Now, I didn't realise, it didn't compute in my head that it was anything to do with the music or to my interview on the BBC. I didn't understand that for 20 years, because I remember when I came back, I just didn't want to hear anything about it. I didn't want to look at it. I turned the television off. I didn't listen to reports or anything. Yeah, I didn't realise that. So, but I do remember all the planes arriving and thinking this is wonderful. And then the following year, of course, they had Live Aid, and um, and Americans. Your song was called. What was the American song called?
I believe it was "We Are the World."
That's
I
it.
think that was,
So
Yep.
yeah.
that's it. Michael Jackson and loads of other people got
Yeah,
together and they
Stevie
started.
Wonder,
Yeah.
Lionel.
We are the Stevie Wonder. That's it. We are the Tina Turner, and it was fantastic fundraising that happened, and people did do it for free. People. I hear rumours now. Oh, they only did it for their own glory. Actually, at the time, when you saw those film clips, you did it from your heart. You did the voluntary thing, and I believe, and having spoken to many of the singers since, I know they did it from their heart. The majority of them, if not all.
Yeah, I can remember that song growing up because I was just a kid still, right? I remember too, like this is probably a kind of a funny or alternate side effect of that time, but my mom would then say, "Well, you better eat all the food on your plate because there's starving children in Africa," right? So
And you
I
said,
remember that.
and you said they can have it.
I'll ship it to them. Yep. They can have my peas. Right.
You know, for a long time, the world responded through music, donations, and urgency. And then that response reached a scale no one could have imagined. What was it like to watch the world respond so loudly when you were working in a place that demanded quiet, careful decisions like that?
I didn't know. I didn't see what the world was doing. All I saw was what I was doing on the ground. So it it was unimaginable because I couldn't imagine it. I was just with all the children and the people who, yeah, I couldn't see it, didn't see it.
So, what was it like to watch the world respond so loudly with all the additional aid coming in and seeing that you had made an impact like that?
I didn't know that I'd made an impact like that. It wasn't up to me at all. But it was when I came out of Ethiopia and I saw what was happening. It was absolutely amazing, fantastic that people were motivated to help out, and they're still motivated to help out. I know that you talk about compassion fatigue, donation fatigue, but I believe I'm a world citizen. I think globally, I might act locally. I believe we in Britain, I'm sure in many parts of America, you recycle paper, you recycle tin, you look after, you have lead free petrol nowadays, which you didn't in those days, and you care about your environment where you're living. Well, it's not just as a world citizen, I care about the world, the globe, and people the other side of the world. There might be a different colour or a different culture, but I care about them. So it's thinking globally, acting locally, and yeah, that's the way forward.
Yeah, I think we see something, happening here in America where we're kind of withdrawing from that mentality, right? We're turning back inward and kind of going away from that global society of we. Um, and people that listen to this podcast are going to hear me talk about this probably every single episode, but it's like I think we need to get back to, or we need to start being a society of we instead of a society of me.
Can I say something? Can I say something? So what you're saying there, we talk about in anthropology, we talk about the barriers of your body, or the barriers, meaning what are you just looking after yourself? Are you just looking after your family, or the house, or the garden, or the village, or the town? But actually, the barriers of our body is actually the planet. And if we don't look after the planet, ourselves, our garden is just going to suffer. So it's very important what we think globally.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
agree. And we're all humans living on the one planet, right? It's not Americans or Britons or Africans or Chinese. I mean, we're all human. We're all living on the same planet. And if we don't take care of it, we won't be living on this planet anymore.
Yeah.
So do you think that things like global charity, does it solve root problems, or are we just throwing money at it to hope it goes away?
Oh, you spoke about global charities.
Yeah.
I think my experience is it depends on the charity or where the money is coming from, where it's going. So I've seen so much money, government to government, that gets, inverted commas, lost or
Hmm.
sidetracked or used in a different way. And very much I believe in a smaller charity that has a better hold on where the money is going to and what it's doing. Whenever anyone asks me or talks to me about a charity, I go on to the Charity Commission site. I'm sure you've got one in America. Go onto the Charity Commission site. Now, again, I can't really understand numbers and the words and everything, but what I do is I go down, and usually they have a graph, so it's a picture, and us who's dyslexic will understand pictures, and they'll say how much is used for income generation and how much is actually used in the field. So look how much is used for income generation. Look how much, how many people are employed, or is it more voluntary or not? And I always support the charities that will no more than say 15% is charity income generating. I've just recently looked at a charity because somebody asked me to help with the fundraising, and over 25% was going. They had two big executives earning over 100,000 a year, and a few others over 70,000. I mean, I just thought, no, no, no,
Wow.
no.
Yeah.
This is not right. You don't need. Yeah, this is not right. So I very much believe, in answer to your question, is look at the charities. Look, you do need money to income generation, but the percentage of money from the income that comes in. So the bigger charities can still just do 15, 10, usually below 10, but it can go up to 15%. It, yeah. So that's the way forward, I feel. If government to government. I've been in places, I was in Sierra Leone during a military takeover in the beginning of the 90s, the coup d'etat. And I was evacuating wounded into the hospital under the protection of the Red Cross because there was just shooting, fighting everywhere. And you went to the hospital and nothing was working. I said, why is nothing working? I can remember the lights in the operating theatre. The big light, it wasn't working. We can't get the bulbs. What do you mean you can't get the bulbs? Well, the hospitals was built by the British, and the bulbs have to come from Britain because it's a different fixture here in Africa. You know, that's that's crazy. So money that's going to building hospitals or things, it should be built by the local builders with local equipment where they can resupply themselves. Or perhaps they're building wells for water. Again, make the wells sustainable so that there's somebody, one or at least two people who know how to maintain the well, that you might not need electricity because might say, well, they've got a generator. Well, have they got enough money for fuel each time to fill the generator? Or is it a hand pump? A hand pump is workable for a small village, or several hand pumps. So, yeah.
So in your travels throughout the world, do you see like with charity being, money, people throwing money at the problem, did we really go in and fix the root problems? Like, did we help build infrastructure, or do we just send food and say that's good enough?
Oh, no, you need to support people to support themselves.
Hmm.
Many charities help in the wrong area. So depending on on what you're building and how you're helping. So I have belonged to a charity called African Children's Educational Trust. We build schools in very remote areas. Now we don't build the schools. We give them. We help finance the building of the schools. The building of the schools is by the local people, and they build the schools, and the government then, this is in Ethiopia, will then supply a teacher. And they'll have maybe 2 or even 3 shifts of children a day. 100 children, that's 300 children, having classes in a day that come. And they can walk for a few hours just to come to a school to learn how to read and write. Sometimes large personalities will build a school for or sponsor someone to have a degree. Well, yeah, that's important, but to have a degree, to have wonderful laptops and things, but actually there's so many people, thousands out there, who needs a basic education of reading and writing so they can set up their own currency, they can start selling eggs or chickens and build it from there. There was one guy, just for an example, who started out, and he started in a shack, and he managed to get a second-hand photocopier and a generator, and he was the only one in the town, large village, that could do photocopying, and he helped translate letters and write letters and started this little business up, which turned into quite a big business for the town. Have I answered that all right?
Oh yeah, that was perfect.
Sorry, Bob Geldof. He's spoken about feeling compelled to act urgently and visibly after seeing what was happening. You were operating very differently, right? Quietly, methodically, and under impossible constraints. How did you view that kind of activism from where you were standing when this pop star got involved with Live Aid?
He was doing the only thing he knew what to do. I was doing the only thing I knew what to do, which was helping on the ground. He was not doing it out of altruism. He just did it. How else was he able to help? That was his speciality. We all have a unique speciality. And his speciality was using the contacts he had to make money. You might be a mechanic in a car, helping cars, and your speciality might be helping repair ambulances, or I know you have a lot of charities in America that help with the poor people with their medical care. Well, he can volunteer to look after the vehicles, or somebody who's good at computers can help volunteer to keep the records and administration going. We all have our unique speciality. I personally didn't feel anything special. I've met Bob Geldof, I've spoken to him, and he doesn't feel anything special. He just does what he is able to do with his expertise. You are able to spread the word through podcasting. You have a separate job in your life. This is not your life, both of you. This is just something you do on the side. And I don't know if you get paid for it, but that's beside the point. It's nothing to do. But, we just use whatever speciality we've got.
It's so beautiful and that's so powerful to see that and to see it inspired in that way. I want to share something personal and ask a question if that's okay. I was a kid when those images aired on the BBC, the famine footage. I remember the music, Freddie Mercury at Wembley, people being asked to care about strangers far away. I didn't know your name at that time, but I knew what it meant to see adults refuse to look away. I mean, there was a lot of attention brought on this. When you think about the people watching from far away, especially children, what do you hope they learned from that moment?
Maybe it's difficult to say. Again, be global citizens. Think globally. Act locally. You can act locally to help these people around the world. We call them charity shops. I think you call them thrift shops, do you? Where you can donate clothes, good as new
Yep.
clothes, and go and buy them. I help out in my local town. I do help run a shop as a volunteer for the local hospice, And we get fantastic clothes in. I buy a lot of my clothes at these shops, designer clothes. And yeah, this is a way of helping out. And again, as I mentioned about helping out in your local community, whether it's helping out with the healthcare of people who don't have any insurance, or whether it's helping out the old lady down the road who doesn't have a visitor and help her, or just going to say hello and maybe inviting her for coffee in your own home or going to visit her. There's so much you can do. Or some of the old people's homes, just visiting them. Somebody with dementia, just visiting them and talking to them. I've got a lady down the road who's just had a stroke, and it's difficult to know how to talk to somebody like that. But then I would massage her hands. It's just a feeling to massage. You can do that with a man as well, just massaging the hands with some nice cream or something, helping to straighten the fingers gently, gently. So we can all help out in our own way.
You
That's
think
so.
compassion is our highest evolutionary trait?
I think technology has made the world smaller, and technology has made us neighbours for everything, but it can't do the most important thing. Is that's give us back this humanity that we used to have. We've got to transcend our differences and make humanity our highest priority in life. And just start out slowly, slowly, and you'll see how much by giving you receive an awful lot.
It's certainly powerful. I think you're absolutely right. Um, Looking back now, decades later, what do you think that younger version of yourself learned about what it means to stay human like that?
What did I learn? It was always in me. As a child in the family, we always helped out in the community, whether it's usually the elderly or the handicapped, shopping, give, giving excess. I lived in the country, so we gave excess food from the garden. My younger self, what did I learn? I think that one of the big things I learned is the power of media. I mean, I'm talking to you. When I got your message, Common X Generation, and I saw the picture of Jared with his beard down here, I thought, oh, and you've got a skull and crossbow, and I think, my goodness, what is this? And I was a bit sceptical and thinking, oh, I'm not sure about this. But just generally speaking to you and asking a few questions, I realised that you are key, really key to part of the community in this world. It's so important that what I have to say is listened to and learnt from history, and you are tapping into a generation of people who need to hear and don't want to listen to general news programs or the television where everyone's beautifully dressed up and everything. You know, do you
Wow.
understand?
Yeah, we're really humbled by that too. Thank you for the kind words, and like I said, it's an honor to have you here. Just so thankful for that. For someone listening who feels overwhelmed by the world but still wants to live a decent life, what would you want them to hold on to?
That everyone can make a difference, that they can make a difference wherever they are. And if you make a positive difference, the more you give, the more you receive. So start making a difference. It might be saying to your parents when you're young, can I help you do this? Or I'll tell you what, one of the big things they can do is help sort out the mobile phone. I can't do this mobile phone. Can you help me get on? You know, the
Yeah,
parents say. It might be small like that, or it might be helping in the local youth club, going down and playing football or table tennis with other guys in the local youth club, or with the handicapped children. There's so much that we can all do. Just do it smaller, start small, and you'll see how much you gain from giving.
Yeah,
That's
I'd
incredible.
say you're proof that there is power for one person, right? One interview, one musician moved, one song created a global movement. So I think you're a kind of a shining example to other people that one person can make a difference.
You know, over 40 years ago, I was covered in flies, bitten by fleas. I had stomach upsets. I was full of boils. And this film crew arrived in the middle of a deserted, filthy feeding centre, which I love, by the way, filming me. And I couldn't get rid of them fast enough. They
Right.
were getting in the way, and I was trying to feed them. And as I mentioned before, the kids were vomiting and had diarrhea, and I was trying. And then this one of the interviewers said, "Well, how does it make you feel, Claire, having to choose who can come in and who can't?" And I just looked at her and I thought, what a stupid question. How do you think it makes me feel? It just breaks my heart. So I couldn't get rid of them fast enough. I had no idea for over 20 years that I had any influence on anybody. I was just in the middle of nowhere with no running water, no electricity, no contact with the outside world. And it was only 20 years later when they took me back to Ethiopia and they showed me the what I had said, and and what Sir Bob Geldof and what the other people had seen it, how it had influenced them. I had no idea before that. I was just getting on with life.
How did that feel to be recognized when you were created as a dame?
You no, I tell you what, you get a letter through the post, and this letter says the Queen would would like to offer you uh, become a dame. Do you agree? And that day, I was flying out to Ethiopia to do some fundraising. And it also says in that letter, do not speak to anybody about it. This is private. So I hid the letter. The same day, 2 hours later, I went to Ethiopia. And whilst I'm in Ethiopia, I'm thinking, Claire, you didn't read that letter right. You're dyslexic. Of course he didn't say that. It was ridiculous. He couldn't have said that. I mean, how,
The Queen, what? Right.
and so 2 weeks later, I came back and got the letter, and wow, so it was unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I'm just a normal person.
That's fun. Well, we've reached a portion of the show that we like to call Jared's Five.
All right, so this is a fun portion of the show that we do with every guest. So I ask a couple questions. One's from a previous guest, and then I'll ask you at the end of the questions to give us a question for our next guest.
Oh, you didn't warn me about this, did you?
Oh, that's the fun part.
Yeah. All of our guests get this.
Surprise! Right.
Yeah.
All right. So our last guest was Jenny Chan, and she had talked about World War II. And her question to you is, which do you prefer, iPhone or Android?
I have an iPhone.
All right.
It's just, I didn't have a phone until I looked after my mother for the last 10 years of her life, and I didn't have a phone before that. But I suddenly realised I needed to be able to keep contact with the doctors and everybody else, so I got an iPhone. And it was the only one that I could get reception on where I was working.
Uh,
See, Jared, everyone
nope.
uses an iPhone. You're the only
Sorry,
one that
man.
has an Android, man.
I'm still Android. Just a preference, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, Oh dear. I can think of many movies. Oh, I know. I liked Paul. Is it called Paul? It's about this little alien that comes to.
Yeah, that's
It's called
good.
Paul.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so
That's a great
fun.
movie.
It's lovely. It's lovely and it's
It
fun.
it is a
Seth
very fun
Rogen.
movie.
Yeah.
Yep,
It's a good one.
that's awesome. All right, growing up, what was your favorite cartoon?
Cartoon. I don't really have cartoons. I don't really have cartoons.
Right? I guess that's more of an American question. I don't know.
They used to, in the olden days, they were called the in the olden days, there's something called the Beano. Have you heard the Beano comic? No,
No.
it's no, okay. Um, I don't know about cartoons. I don't know any.
Hmm?
I know there was something. Uh, no, I
Oh, it's
can't.
okay.
I'm
It's
so
okay.
sorry.
No. I can use Beano. I'll figure it out. All right. What's one thing people don't know about you that maybe they should?
Well, I'm a Buddhist. I'm a fully practicing Buddhist for the last 1994 with the SGI UK, SGI, Soccer Gakkai International. And that changed my life. That gave me a meaning in life. Before that, I was just floating along and not knowing how to develop my life, what to do in life, how to create value. And then when I joined this group, which is very diverse, it's wonderfully diverse, and it helped me know how to create value, how to move forward in life, and it gave me a voice. So look it up. I'll give you the link if you like.
Yeah, I will. I went and investigated a lot of religions when I was younger. So,
So I can't hear that. You looked into it, did you
uh,
say?
yeah, I investigated a lot of religions when I was younger. So,
The Soccer Gakkai
definitely,
is
definitely
Soccer Gakkai
interesting.
USA. I'll send you the link.
Yeah. All right. What if you could go back in time and tell your teenage self one thing, what would it be?
Um, be the change you wish to see.
I love it.
Wow. Yeah.
All right. You have to ask a question for our next guest. Can be anything you want.
Anything I want.
Yep.
Who is your mentor in life?
All right. That's all the hard questions from me.
Is it?
Dame
Yeah.
Claire, Dame Claire, thank you so much for showing us what decency looks like, um, and just being so humble and so down to earth with us. And we're truly grateful that you trusted us with this conversation, and you've been an absolute delight. Uh, where can people find your book or any projects that you're working on?
You could. I have got a website called clairebertschinger.com, but you can buy the book on Amazon. That's the easiest way to buy the book. And I want to say something about this word humble. I don't like that word because it's what you think. I'm just being normal. Um, it's not about being humble. I don't understand that word humble, really. Just get on with life.
Right.
I can certainly appreciate that. Thank you so much for joining us today on Common X. For our viewers and listeners, you can learn more about Claire by going to her website, and also we'll post some things in our X Files blog at commonxpodcast.com. And be sure to pick up the book and check out her website. This has been Common X.
It's been a delight talking to you. I'm so pleased that you contacted me. Thank you.
And thank you
This has
so
been
much for
great.
being here.
Thank you.
Yeah, you've been a hero of mine for a long time, and I can't believe we had the chance to sit down with you. I'm truly honored.
It was amazing, isn't it? All those can't do this, can do this. Oh, anyway, we got there in the end, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, we sure did.
Well done. Well done.
If you're tired of being told what to think,
And you'd rather actually think?
welcome to the 1%.
Hit like or subscribe. We don't do echo chambers. We
We
are
are Common X.
Common X. Hey man, it's supposed to be at the same time.
We are Common X, though, man. Hit
We are
like and
Common X.
subscribe. Hit like and
Yeah.
subscribe.
You guys are out there watching
Yeah.
videos but not liking and subscribing. Come
Yeah.
on.
YouTube's where subscribers at, man. That's where you got to be. Hit
Yeah.
subscribe.